What's going on, everyone? This is Lucas Ross Sports, Lucas Ross, your commentator. We continue our 2022 college football predictions. The Iowa State Cyclones are up next. I'll give you an official prediction on this team, give you my thoughts on this team, and go through the schedule, and we will go from there. But before we do that, let's look back at 2021 for this Iowa State team. In 2021, Iowa State went 7-6. Not a bad year, but people were really high on this team. Many people predicted they would go to the Big 12 championship, but that did not happen. They kind of choked throughout the end of the season. And if you look at the offense and defensive rankings, pretty good rankings last year for this Iowa State team. 43rd on offense, 21st on defense. I mean, those are not bad numbers, let's be honest. But this is going to be a young Iowa State team this year. We'll get to the production percentage in just a minute. But you see the points per game, 31.3 points a game last year for this Iowa State team, and 20.5 points given up by the opponents. But overall, this Iowa State team was really good. They went to a bowl game, won that. So, I mean, there's a lot of expectations for this Iowa State team this season, but who knows what they're going to look like. They're going to be really young on offense, really young on defense. So overall, both sides of the ball, they're going to be really young. And I'm really, I'm honest about this Iowa State team. They might be the youngest team in the country this year. They could be the youngest team in the Big 12 as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of young teams out there, but this Iowa State team might be the youngest team in the Big 12 conference this season. And here's that 2022 schedule for Iowa State. That opening game against Southeast Missouri on September 3rd. The non-conference schedule is not that bad. I mean, you get two easy opponents, and then you get Iowa on the road. But let's get to the Southeast Missouri team first. This one is on September 3rd. It should be an easy win for Iowa State. Shouldn't be a problem. I mean, I know it's a young offense and all and a young defense, but I think they'll try to I think this is a game that they should take care of business. They have no business in losing this game, and I think Iowa State will start out 1-0. And then there's that game on the road at Iowa. This game last year was really not even close. I mean, Iowa really had a really great defensive team last year. This Iowa team is going to be really young a little bit on offense, but I mean actually on defense. But I mean, quite a losses there for Iowa on the defensive side. The offense is going to be really good. I don't think explosive, but it depends on what the Iowa offense is going to look like. The defense really forced a lot of turnovers last year. Who knows what they're going to look like. I don't think this is probably going to be maybe a first-half performance for Iowa State. They'll hang around, but at the end of the day, I think with this one being on the road, I just don't see Iowa State winning this one. They're going to be really young. I mean, it's going to be a hard game to win on the road at Iowa. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to really, pick up a win. I mean, after, having a good season last year, but, this is a young Iowa State team, just really young. And then they take care of business against Ohio. It's not going to be an easy game. I mean, I know Ohio's a great group of 5 team, but I think Iowa State should take care of business. I mean, it's a losable game, but I think they should take care of business. And they open up Big 12 play against Baylor at home. This could wind up being a close game. I think Iowa State will be a little bit closer in this game, but it's still in September, and we don't really know about these teams until we get into the middle of October. And there's just a lot of, question marks for this Iowa State team in 2021, too. I mean, there's just a lot of question marks. But I had to go with Baylor on this game. I think the returning production percentage is there for them. I mean, it's obviously Baylor. I mean, Baylor's going to be really young on defense this year. But this is a game that I think can be close a little bit. But I don't think it's going to be enough for Iowa State to pull off the win at home. I think Baylor will come out on top. And then there's that game on the road at Kansas. Now, I know Kansas returns a lot this year. They have a lot coming back. Iowa State is going to be really young this year. With this one being on the road, I had to go back and forth on this game. I know Iowa State has more talent than Kansas, but Kansas, I think, is the returning production percentage there. I think Kansas will be fired up in this one. I think Kansas is going to come out on top. I know it's not really a good prediction, but it's my prediction. I think it's going to be Kansas that does win this one. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just thinking it's going to happen. But Kansas is going to be a team this year that's going to be an underdog. I mean, I think Kansas will be an underdog, but Iowa State has more talent than Kansas, but it's just, with it being on the road and also Kansas being more production percentage there for them, I think Kansas is going to win this one. Not by a blowout, but I think it's going to be a really close game. I think Iowa State can win this game, but it's going to be really hard to see what will happen. in this one. And now we get to the middle of October. I think this is where Iowa State tries to get better. But they get a game against Kansas State here on October 8th. Kansas State going to be a team that, has a lot of question marks. They're really young on both sides of the ball. I mean, they only return about 50-something% of their starters back from last year. So, I mean, Kansas State, this is a winnable game for Iowa State as well, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Iowa State still has a long time to go. I think this is just going to be a really tough year for Iowa State, to be honest with you guys. I mean, it's 4 losses now for this Iowa State team. They got to really pick it up, but, Kansas State's a loss there. I think it's going to be a really close game, but just not enough to get the win. And then there's that game on the road at Texas. We know Texas, people are really high on this team. They have a ton, they have quite a bit of production coming back on defense. I think this is going to be a tough game for Iowa State to play on the road. I don't think it's going to be even close. I think Iowa State will hang around maybe in a quarter or two or maybe a few minutes. I think it's going to be all Texas in this one, and I got Texas winning this one, not by a blowout, but I mean, it's probably going to be all Texas. So, I mean, I really just don't see Iowa State maybe winning a Big 12 game this year. But let's go through the rest of the schedule, and we'll look at it. Oklahoma is next, October 27th. They get a bye week before playing this game. Good news for that one, but Oklahoma is just more talented than Iowa State. I know both offenses are young this year, but defensively, Oklahoma's defense should step up to the table. And I think Oklahoma will win this one with their defense. So I got the Sooners winning that one over Iowa State. A lot of people predicted Oklahoma and Iowa State to play in the Big 12 championship last year as well, which is really interesting. But this year, Iowa State is just struggling. I think it's going to be really tough for them. They have a young team. I mean, just the schedule really just doesn't set up nicely either. And then there's that game against West Virginia. They get to the month of November now. West Virginia on November the 5th. West Virginia is going to have a young offense. Defensively, they bring quite a few back, but it's not going to be enough, I think, for Iowa State to win. I think, the West Virginia defense will step up in this one. Iowa State should be better by this time, but it's just going to be hard to win a game. And I think the coach will be on the hot seat by this time. And I think Iowa State will just come up short. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think Iowa State players will pretty much stop playing in this game. But I mean, obviously the schedule just really is tough for Iowa State, to be honest. Some of these teams are going to be really good. Some of them are not going to be good, but it's not going to be enough for Iowa State to win. November the 12th on the road at Oklahoma State. We know Oklahoma State went to the Big 12 championship last year. They bring a young defense this year. Quite a lot coming back, though, on offense. And I think that's why the offense will be better by this time for Oklahoma State. And I think they'll get the win here in this one. Iowa State does come up short. I think it's going to be an offensive battle, but I think Oklahoma State will win. Not by a blowout, but I think it's going to be enough for Oklahoma State. Their offense will step up to the table. I think it will be a shootout game. You never know, but it's just not going to be enough for Iowa State to win. Then there's that game against Texas Tech at home, November 19th. I think it's a winnable game for Iowa State, but Texas Tech does bring quite a lot back on defense. And the rest of the schedule just really doesn't set up nicely for Iowa State. And I have to go with Texas Tech in this one. I mean, it's not going to be a blowout. It's probably going to be a close in the first half. And I think it's just going to be a defensive battle the rest of the way, maybe. But, I think Texas Tech will win this one. I think they have the better returning production percentage as well. And TCU on November 26th, final game here on the road. TCU is going to be a really interesting team this year. I really don't see Iowa State really competing here in this game. Maybe the first quarter they do compete, but the rest of the game, it's just all TCU. I'm really high on TCU this year. They bring a lot coming back as well on both sides of the ball. I mean, pretty much the same amount of production. And that's a loss there for Iowa State. So the rest of the schedule just doesn't really set up nicely. And it's really surprising because Iowa State goes winless in the Big 12. I just think the young, depth chart they have, they don't really have the depth probably to win all these games. I mean, it's going to be really tough to win a game overall this season for Iowa State. And then there's the record. Total record for Iowa State comes out to be 2-10. I know Iowa State fans won't be really happy about that one, but just the young, it's just overall the young on the offense and defensive side. They lost quite a lot this year. and it's going to be really a tough season for Iowa State. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think Iowa State's record will be in 2022, and stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.